Contemplation before chanting. The Sangha is invited to come back to our breathing so that the collective energy of mindfulness will bring us together as an organism, going as a river with no separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, transcending the boundaries of the elusive self, liberating us from the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
So, dear Thai, the community, it's wonderful to be together, especially when we see so many monastics from Magnolia Grove Monastery and Deer Park Monastery able to join us, and also to see all of you coming. Some are familiar face, some new for the first time. So we listened to the talk of Sister Dee. I think I really admire her a lot. She's very eloquent and she's very good Dhamma talk. And also we have a wonderful sharing from Brother Ngộ Không about the 5 mindfulness training, like a buffet style. And I was looking this morning, so you can get the copy of it. It details a lot of things. I think sometimes it's overwhelming. There's so many information there. So I thought today I share about something different. And I think we know the text of the 5 mindfulness training. And we know the direction that we want to go. But the thing is, are we willing to put the time and effort to practice? So a lot of time had to do with motivation. How do we motivate ourselves? Do we see any benefit of it? Some see as a rule, impediment that prevent us from doing something that we want to do. But often it's like you come to the intersection of the red light, and you see there's a red light at the intersection, and there was no car around. So we said to ourselves, well, there's no car around, why do I have to stop? I just go ahead and just go through the intersection. And sometime at night, for example, you don't know, maybe there's some car whose headlight is broken, and that might be crossed, and the light, actually we have a red light, they have a green light, so we ended up having collision, and we get into trouble a lot just because we don't follow the rules. So often the rules of the 5 mindfulness training are designed to have a warning, prevention, like a seat belt, to allow us to have freedom and to avoid getting into a sticky situation. But often we have a habit energy, very strong habit energy, what inherit from our ancestors, our parents, and we want to do something that we feel that somebody prevent us from doing that. We feel restricted and we want to do. So often it's a lot of inner discipline, inner control of how much we can tame the animal that is inside of us. We are very much mammalian. We are like an animal inside of us. So we talk about having enough motivation. And often we have to see that there's some benefit. In the practice of the 5 mindfulness training, in order to continue to practice more. So some of the benefit you can see, the more you release yourself of this habit energy, you feel lighter, you feel joyful, you feel happy, and you are more in harmony with the loved one around us. So I think this is very good feedback that we need to do to see ourselves is as we practice along the month, the year, the weeks, do we see the improvement? Do we see there is a better relationship between, first of all, between yourself, so you be content, happy for yourself, and also you feel open and loving toward relationship communication with our loved one. So I think that's very important to see. And the more we see that is happening, then we have more motivation for the practice. And the other thing we need to see is also we need to create an environment that support our practice. And often retreatants share with us a lot is when I come to the monastery here, I can practice very well. Because we have a schedule, we have a time set up for walking meditation, we have a time set up for eating mindfulness in silence without talking. But then when we go outside, we share something and somebody will cut off. You don't want to do deep listening. So it's difficult to have an environment to practice. For example, somebody share at work, the boss is very demanding. They ask us, I remember when I'm working in banking, one of the supervisors come and talk to a group of about 6 people, and they say that your mission is to answer the phone before the 3rd ring. So after 2 rings, somebody had to pick up the phone among your group. Otherwise, you'll be penalized. So we have to have customer service, we have to do something. And that creates a lot of stress for us, you know. And we look at each other, we say, all right, who's going to answer the phone? So we have to take turn to do that. And of course, it's hard for me to explain to the boss that our practice in Plum Village is we take 3 deep breaths, 3 rings before we answer the phone. Of course, they don't understand it, you know. So I think we need to practice a way of formless practice. We practice, but people don't notice it. And then, so we can find a way how to do that. And also, we need to have support for the practice. Meaning, people around us should practice to support us. Other practitioners. But here we try our best to practice, and people go around party, drinking alcohol or something. It's hard for us to do that. So if you hang around a friend who want to party a lot, it's kind of very hard to practice. And I think, last but not least, I think they have to have a willingness. So this is some kind of awakening. Sometimes it has to do with the Four Noble Truths. So you see the suffering. And you see the path or the cause leading to suffering. And you see the way out of it, which is happiness. And because we practice here, we know the method of practice, so we know the Noble Eightfold Path, or the path to happiness. So this is important because to have that willingness reinforce the motivation for us to practice more. So all those things is have a motivation, have environment, have a support, and have a willingness. So when you go home, I think it's very important to create those conditions to make the study, the practice easier. So here we have a Sangha, a monastic Sangha, brother, sister, and also we have some long-term lay friend who come to practice with us. And from time to time, people come and stay for a weekend, a week, sometimes 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, depending on what you need it. So that reinforces the practice of Five Mindfulness training. And you need to see that there's a benefit to that for to continue the practice. So at this point, I'd like to introduce you something new. I've broken one of the board, so I'm going to use something different, like I use a Dharma instrument. We have what we call, they call the Phật Pháp, Thế gian Pháp, mean that the worldly Dharma we can turn into the Buddha Dharma. We can turn into the instrument for teaching. So I thought about when before I become a monastic, I go a lot to the restaurant, like a Chinese or Vietnamese restaurant. And often they have a big pot of tea, and they put the tea there, and it's a whole day, it's a big pot. And they put hot water in there, and then they just pour the tea to the customer. And I thought I know how to drink tea until I become a monastic. And then the brother teach me and show me how to drink. So when I want to share you the art of drinking tea. So after I become a monastic, the brother introduced me to tea. So there are many ways of drinking tea. We have a Chinese way of drinking tea, and the Japanese way, of course, they have like a side wave. So to me, you can drink Lipton tea, but I think it doesn't taste the same. So the Chinese have perfected a lot of things, like especially in cooking and in drinking tea. They have 1,000 years of practice and of improvement. And of course, in the Zen tradition, the monastic drink a lot of tea. We wake up early in the morning and we drink some tea before we go sitting meditation. So there's an art to that. I'm a moderate tea drinker. I'm not a specialist. I don't want to invest a lot of time and ritual, just like a Japanese. But by regular practice, we learn to be with the tea. There is a sentence in Zen they call thiền trà nhất vị, is the meditation and the tea have one flavor. So you become one with the tea during the time. So this is the Chinese teapot, And in China, there's a village they call Yixing. They make the kind of clay that very refined that help to make the very fine tea. And the very simple is you need a container, you need a handle so you don't burn your hand, and you need a spout so you can pour the tea straight, not to the floor. And you need the lid that hold the thing, and usually there's a holder. If you put the finger in here, then if the good teapot, it doesn't flow. So there's no leak. So very important. And of course, we have different type of tea. And we depend on the type of tea you want. And I learned more the art of tea. And actually, I have a background, even I didn't know about it. But when I was young, my father owned a tea plantation and a coffee plantation, not too far from Prashna Bát Nhã temple in Bảo Lộc. It's in Yilan, before we get to Bảo Lộc a little bit. And so in my youth, I hang around the farm. I'm familiar with that, even though I don't pay enough attention. In those days, when I was young, I don't drink tea. But when I find out tea needs to be processed. So it's not just like you just get the tea from the branch and you put in the hot water. So there is an art to that. And different tea has a different nature that you have to take care of. Some tea like very hot temperature. Some tea like I take the hot water out from the container and I put in the thermos. And usually when I come out from the tea boiler, it's around 208 degrees. 212 degrees, the boiling water. But then some of the tea take 190 degrees or 185 degrees. I like a lot green tea. And the green tea, usually that kind of temperature you need to do. So all you need to do is you open a cup of tea and you take out. And now people perfect the art of having a tea bowl. These are the tea leaves that from a branch. But if you can see, it has a little ball. So they wrap around and they freeze it dry, so it becomes very tiny. But it will expand when you pour the hot water in. So there is a process of treating the tea, fermentation and so on. And it's an art, and it's a secret recipe too. Brother Ngộ Không will share about the recipe, how to make tea. And all you need is just pour the hot water in. And sometimes if it is too hot, I just pour in a glass of water. And I just do the process this morning, prepare for the Dharma talk as well. So, and I would pour it in. And before I discovered the glass pot, I was drinking this Yixing tea. And it's so hard for me to remember when to pour and when to... The idea is not to leave the hot water in the tea too long. The tea box gives instruction. Like you leave for 1 minute for the first cup, and about maybe 40 seconds the second cup, and 30 seconds for the third cup kind of thing. But when I found out the glass pot, you can actually see it. So to me, I like that transparency. And you can see the color of the tea is a green tea. It's slightly yellow-green, very light. And you can see that it's about to be ready. So you don't, regardless what kind of tea you put on, of course you have to have some knowledge, some awareness of the type of tea. You see that the color is about ready. So this is a special kind of glass tea. It's very rare to find it, and it's very cheap. I found it in a store in Montreal. When I go to the Cathedral Notre Dame in old Montreal, and there's an old Chinese couple who has a tea shop, and they sell it. And so I bought a lot, and the nuns are crazy about it. So I've been buying and give it to them. Like sometimes they do a children program, and they work so hard, so I give them one teapot. So I encourage them to volunteer to be in the children program. Or if they have to give the first Dhamma talk, I would give them one pot. Myself, actually, I use this kind of tea. Actually, the brother preferred that. I gave to one of the monks, and he said that this tea is partly too small. I'm more compassionate. I want to share with my brother, so I need something bigger. So actually, I was using that. And of course, you have a bigger too. And in the old days, it's very hard to manufacture. But nowadays, it's for the crystal, for the emperor, the how you say, the general or somebody high position. But nowadays, with the technology, they make a wonderful glass tea. And this one was for $15. So actually, it's a lot cheaper for the ginseng, which sometimes they can go $300, $400, $1,000 for the teapot. So why do I share this about the tea? Because for me, I thought of something interesting. To me, the Sangha is the teapot. For transformation. So when we practice, we want to have good result. We want to transform our negative habit energy. We want to better our life. And we need the environment, we need the support. And the Sangha provide us the best, the environment and the support. The Sangha, I mean the group of practitioners that have a willingness and a motivation to practice together. So often we say that we receive the 5 mindfulness training, we are very inspired to practice. But when we go home, we don't have that teapot. So actually, when we gather together here at the retreat like this, for about 270 people, then we create a very, very big teapot like this one. This one I use for the tea room, for the brother to drink tea together. And let me use one of the boards to make it easy. I think I can see. So here we have the ingredient for the brewing and the enjoyment of the tea. So first of all, we have a tea leaf. So I show you the tea leaves, that's very important. And to me, the tea leaf is like the Buddha nature that is in each of us. And of course, it be transmitted from the time of the Buddha through the spiritual ancestor and the Dharma teacher, mean the practitioner that practiced long enough to understand well their Buddha nature and share with us about the practice. And of course, we need the hot water, as I mentioned. And to me, the hot water is the practice of mindfulness, concentration, and insight. And we have to have the right dosage, the right amount. If you notice that when I pour the hot water in the tea, I deliberately pour everything out. There's not a single drop left on the teapot. So that's very important. With the practice transformation, you need just the right amount of time and temperature of the water to get to the tea and release the exquisite taste of the tea. And you shouldn't leave any hot water in the tea too long, not like in the Chinese restaurant. And if you need to have another cup, you pour another cup, but then this time the second cup is 45 seconds, you pour it out right away. And the third cup maybe 30 seconds. But you can see right now the tea leaf is still rolled in the bowl. If I pour the second cup, it will be more blooming and it will be more like a leaf. So by the time I sit to the sixth cup, you see actually the tea leaf. So it releases more flavor that is inside of it. And the same thing with the practice. We need to have patience. We need to have concentration practice, so it slowly releases the Buddha nature in each of us. And of course, I cannot pour I cannot pour the hot water on the tea here because it will spill all over. So we need a tea container. That is very important. The teapot is very important. And to me, I equate the teapot with the Sangha, with the group practitioner, that hold together the practice, hold together the collective energy, that we benefit from the collective energy of mindfulness in order to transform ourselves. And this is why the retreat like this is very important. But it helps us to focus, to gather all the collective energy for the personal transformation and for collective transformation of our habit energy. And of course, the art of brewing tea. Just like I mentioned to you, I drink spring tea. I love spring tea a lot because it's light. Sometimes I drink some tea Kuan Yin, Avalokiteshvara tea. Sometimes the brother sister put some lotus flavor, something, chrysanthemum. something, or we drink some pu'er, we mean like a fermented tea, or black tea, red tea. Each has a different characteristic. And so you have to treat them with respect, with friendship, depending on which tea you drink. So the appropriateness of the practice of the art of brewing tea is very important. And to me, I equate with the Dharma door, the method of practice. We learn the sutra, the Tripitaka, the three basket, and many ancestors elaborate the teaching of the Buddha, and it's an ocean of learning. And how we apply it, how we have to try it, we have practice, and see whether the method is working for us. So that's very important. They say that there are 84,000 Dhamma door into awakening into the Buddha nature. And we need to choose one or two, that's enough, But we have to find the appropriate way of doing. So during the retreat, you will see the presentation a lot of all the Dhamma door that we practice, and some of them may be appropriate for you for this time of the year or some other thing, but we learn all the method of practice, whether being anew, touching the earth, or deep relaxation, or simple walking meditation in mindfulness, and eating meditation, and the Dharma sharing as well. And the other ingredient very important is the awareness. When I drink a cup of tea, I have to stop everything, and I have to be aware of it. And for me, having a transparency helps a lot, because I can see exactly what's happening. So I'm aware of the tea, whether it blooming or not blooming. You can see it slowly, if I put another cup of water, then it will be coming out more. So the respect and the dedication to the time of brewing tea and drinking tea is very important. And it helps to center ourselves, to calm ourselves, to focus. And when you practice drinking tea, you can transfer that skill into chopping vegetable, into cooking, into doing anything else. So there is a stopping thinking, stopping energy of running, and deep looking. And for me, it helped because I can look at the glass teapot and I can see much better. And if you practice with a clay cup, you have to kind of imagine. You have to look inside of it. But some people do like the Yixing teapot. And of course, I share about the time. It's very important. You have to know the characteristic of the tea, at which stage you are pouring the tea, whether it's the first cup, third cup, fourth cup, and you have to allow the time for maturity, and you have to take them out. So the same thing with our habit energy, we have to be aware of what type of energy we have, whether that's anger, fear, anxiety, and you have to stop and do a meditation, deep looking, to see where they come from, at what point in time you have it, and how much time it takes to transform them. I think that's very important. Maybe we can stop here and listen to one sound of the bell. So a lot of time we practice and we say that, how come I haven't transformed myself yet? And often, sometimes you just know the practice a few months, and it takes time to transform. And you have to keep cooking the habit energy bath in the hot water of mindfulness, concentration, insight, and the 5 mindfulness training for a while. And sometimes when people practice a lot, they see sometimes unexpectedly there are some transformation after a number of years. So I think it's very important to be trusting, have faith, and patience. And the thing I like about transparency in the teapot also is we need to practice in the way that we are very transparent in the community, among our peers, among our supporters. So in the monastic, we have a mentor, and we have co-practitioner, we have a mentee sometimes, and we know each other, we see our practice, and we have a process of shining light. And sometimes we just share honestly about what we see, the goodness and the strength or the weakness of some aspect of our practice. So this is very important to have the Sangha in order to help us to see clearly. Often for ourselves, we have a blind spot. Just like sometimes you drive the car in that corner there, you have that blind spot you don't see very well. But the Sangha will see it, and the Sangha will help us to transform. And we have a process of Dharma sharing where we share the information. So we see from different angles how one go about practice to transform our habit energy. So having transparency is very important. You remember the 3rd mindfulness training? I was reading a part about when we have a relationship or something, make known to ourselves and to all others, our family. So why the need for transparency? It's very important to have that transparency so people can see and contribute and help us in the practice. And we have nothing to hide, that's the thing. You know, when you have a lot of things to hide, there's something shameful about it. We have something like that. So very important to practice in the Sangha. And of course, the result is we have a calmness, the stability, and the clarity. The clarity is very important. There is a sentence in Vietnam they call the practice of insight. Is my career. Duy tuệ thị nghiệp. So I practice in such a way that I get to the point when insight come up a lot, understanding. We often being caught in the society when there seems to be so much action need to be taken to defend something, human right, persecution, discrimination, greed, destruction of environment, everything. But we need to go hand in hand. Action and wisdom go hand in hand. I think later on we have a transmission of 14 mindfulness training, and they talk about this kind of thing. And the path, the career, is the freedom awakening is the highest aim of the career. Of course, all the side benefit from the insight are regular: loving kindness, compassion, non-discrimination, joy, happiness. But the insight is one of the most important. They often equate it, say we have a silkworm, and we give them a lot of mulberry leaf. So the silkworm will eat the mulberry leaf. And then they transform the mulberry leaf into the silk. And that's what we price a lot on the silk, because some of the good quality we do. But I think if the silkworm, which is like us, we eat the mulberry leaf and we throw out the chewed mulberry leaf, then it has no value. So people price it because the capacity of the silkworm to transform the mulberry leaf into the silk. So when we practice the 5 mindfulness training, it's like that. We have a wording, we have a thing. We practice in such a way that we need to transform that into something beneficial for us and something beneficial for the loved one and for society. And to summarize, I think Brother Ngộ Không has a wonderful sharing last night. And I thought I'd do the same thing, just a compilation of what I was sharing earlier today. So we have the ingredients, the recipe, the nutrition, and the effect. And the ingredient is the tea leaf, which is like the Buddha nature, the hot water, which is the Dharma, and the teapot, which is the Sangha. And we have an incentive, the motivation, the environment, and the support. And the recipe is to practice the 5 mindfulness training, is the timing, maturity. Timing, you have to process them. It takes time to process. If you leave the hot water too long in the tea, it will give a branch taste, the taste of the wood, not the taste of the leaf. And stopping and deep looking into the process and have some patience and have concentration why you do it, for the recipe, for the cooking or brewing of tea. And the nutrition, what you get out of the tea is an exquisite taste. Tea connoisseur is like a wine connoisseur. Each tea has a different taste that you can enjoy it. And also the awakefulness. It helps us to keep awake in the morning before we go for meditation and for the giving Dharma talk. And to have that clarity. We see clearly what is happening inside and outside of us. And we avoid making mistakes. We know when to act, when not to act. We know how to choose our loving speech, not a harsh speech that can hurt somebody else, avoid making mistakes. And of course, the good digestion. That's another benefit of tea. If you drink it, it helps the digestion process a lot. And also the kinship or the brotherhood, sisterhood. We often drink in the tea room when we gather together with the brother, and sometimes we invite the sister too. So we sit, we drink tea, and we exchange ideas. Sometimes we shining light on each other. Many of the projects come out from the tea room when we sit and we open up our hearts, share about different things, and a lot of idea about new retreat or something come out from the tea room. And of course, we create a beloved community, the Sangha, of practitioners who know each other, who has a tight relationship. And the effect, just like Brother Ngộ Không say, all the effect. All the insight, clarity, stability, mountain solid, water reflecting, flower fresh, space free. And all these things. Because the one I want to mention, especially about the teapot, because that's very important, is what important is what happened inside the teapot, not outside the teapot. So when we have a suffering, the transformation, we have a sentence, we say, the way out is in. So we need to go back to ourselves to practice. And we need to be contained by the container, which is the teapot, which is the Sangha. Often we have a tendency to think about it, well, there's so much happening. I feel that the Sangha restrict me. I need to go outside to do something. So often we have many people who feel that they need to go out and save the world. But the thing is, we need to go together to help the world, not to go alone. There's a sentence that says the tiger is a king of the jungle, but when we go to the plain, to the city, they get easily killed because he's by himself. So to me, this is very important to have a container to practice. And through the clarity, through the transparency, through the reflecting, and through the kinship, we help each other in the practice. And we can help other people to create the container for the practice, the container for transformation. And we need to be patient. I practice now for 16 years. And I was a novice, and slowly I become a bhikshu, and slowly I become the Dharma teacher, and then now I guess I'm a senior. But I still have a lot to learn. Often from intellectual point of view, many brothers and sisters stay with the Sangha about 12 years. And they say, well, I have learned all I need to learn from the sutra, from the text and everything. And now I need to go out and learn something new. But to me, the deep inside looking is very important. And we live in the historical dimension, but at the same time, we live in the ultimate dimension. And Thầy often challenges to practice in such a way that we step deeply into the ultimate dimension. And this is where the insight comes from. So you have to trust that if you practice long enough, you will release the exquisite taste in the tea. Here I'm just pouring one cup. Actually, if I pour more, there are more good quality of the tea that will be released. So I have the container of the Sangha that helped me to do a lot of things. Last year, for the first time, I was able to go to India for the first time. Shantam Seth, who has invited many Sangha to go through India, and earlier, about 10 years ago, our teacher go to India. I was a novice, I didn't get the chance to go. But now I'm a senior Dharma teacher, and I'm a US passport, so I can easily go. And I benefit a lot. We do 3 weeks of teaching in India to the police station and all the things. But because I was inside the Sangha, I was right inside the container. And I can create a lot of benefit from the retreat, from the teaching in India, and who knows where I'm going to be teaching next, Because nowadays we are continuation, our teacher, we will make more retreat, we will open more venue or way of sharing the Dharma with everybody. So thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you. Uncross your legs and massage your legs a little bit.